There it is. Here we are. We made it. The final Fight On football game of the year.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube or wherever you're going to download your podcast, it's always free. We always appreciate your support. Show your appreciation. If you're watching on YouTube, become a subscriber. It's quick, easy, it's free. Click the red subscribe button. Don't forget, thumbs up, smash it, make it go down. And don't forget to hit the bell notification button. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. It's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Wasn't that long ago, folks. Yeah, think about it. USC, first game of the year. Remember that? Way back when? Believe it or not, Trojans were 6-0 at one point, ranked number 5 in the country. That preseason playoff pick, they were halfway there, right? Just a matter of don't stumble, don't trip. USC's making their first appearance in the playoffs. They tripped. In fact, the whole damn defensive dam just broke, just collapsed. Before you knew it, 2023 season, Caleb Williams, wasted, washed away. We'll never know why Lincoln Riley waited so long to do what everyone knew he needed to do when the team returned from Dallas last year after the Cotton Bowl. Well, this year after the Cotton Bowl. This year's almost over. Calendar year 2023. But for the next 6 weeks, after USC opened the season 6-0, USC fans, they still, they're up there. Victory signs were saluted every game. And for 6 weeks straight, by the end of the game, it was more of a one-finger salute. One finger for one win in those final 6 games. Like I said, they did more than trip. They fell down. They fell down and they could not get back up. Let me put it to you this way. This is how bad their meltdown was. Just to put it into proper context. Just a reminder. And I know it's like, Mark, why are you jumping into this negativity? Because it's almost over. And it will be more positive as we go on with the show. But, that one game that they won, remember, they could have finished the season with a 6-game losing streak. They had to come back from behind to win on the road at Cal. And that final score was 50-49. So the bad news is the defensive coaching staff, the new defensive coaching staff, isn't going to be involved in this game. And there aren't going to be any new players arriving to help this defense out. And as not to mention, you've got we just found out recently, and I mentioned it on the other day on Locked On USC, that Caleb Bullock is not going to be playing in this game as well. He's elected to go to the NFL. So were these last 6 weeks where USC hasn't played a game, all they've been doing is practicing off and on, has that been long enough for the guys who are still here and who are going to be playing in the game? Has that been long enough for them to kind of wash that taste out of their mouths, look better? I know I'm talking about the defense, but I'm talking about the whole team in general. Look, I know the longer we lament Riley's poor choice to keep Grinch around, the more we feel the need to raise that one-finger salute at how the season played out. But we got to get beyond that. Let's focus on the Holiday Bowl. Coach Riley and Louisville's head coach, Jeff Brom, they did that joint presser, the day before the game thing. And my everydayers who were watching the show yesterday, you heard me mention that Lake McCree was probably going to be out of the bowl game. Well, Coach Riley confirmed it at the press conference. Carson Tabarachi as the leader there, and you got true freshman Cade Eldridge will also be seeing time. McCree suffered an injury during practice last week, and Coach Riley said it was a gut punch to the team. A gut punch to the team. He said, in all the years of doing it, I don't know that I've ever seen an injury like that in a bowl practice. So he didn't say what the injury was. Sounds like it was a fluky thing, but doesn't sound like it's a good injury either. Other players who aren't going to be playing in this game. I mentioned Kalen Bullock. You're going to be without Christian Roland Wallace. You're also going to be without Damani Jackson, who has jumped into the transfer portal. All those guys are starters. They're not playing. He also said he also didn't mention Christian Pierce's name. I've been mentioning his name as someone I was looking forward to watching. So because he did not mention Pierce by name, it's probably a good indicator he's not going to be playing. Why? Because here are the other defensive backs that Coach Riley did mention when asked about who's playing in the secondary. He mentioned Prophet Brown, Traquan Vagans, Jacoby Covington, Jalen Smith, Anthony Beavers, Bryson Shaw, and Max Williams as the guys that we should probably count on seeing in the secondary. That's it. So, again, we're not going to have Alex Rich around. He hasn't been around for going on 2 months now. The guys, the defensive staff who's stuck around, who's coaching, is that going to be long enough to kind of say, all right, guys, get Grinch out of your system. Let's focus on what we need to do for this game. I know, we'll find out. That's why I'm looking forward to this game. Game means nothing. I mean, you want to win. You don't want to go 7-6. You'd rather go 8-5. Really makes no difference. But bottom line is we want this team to look like they're excited to play a game. Much different than like they looked when they came out in their last game against UCLA. Here's some of the good news. I know there's not a whole lot to talk about good news with the USC football team lately, but it is Miller Moss's turn. And this is what Riley said at the press conference on Tuesday. I'm excited for him. I really am. He's learned our offense as good as any player on our roster and really earned the respect of the team. He understands the opportunity that's here. You could argue he's been waiting 3 years for an opportunity like this. So there's no pressure on Miller Moss, right? He knows that his head coach is searching the transfer portal for at least 2 quarterbacks. So I guess the best advice that anybody can give Miller is, just use your wide receivers. You got some really good young guys out there. Don't try and be someone you're not. Just be Miller Moss. And if the game does come down to scoring, which, team with the most points usually wins, is it going to be done in the red zone or is it going to be big plays? I mentioned on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC that Louisville might be really stout up front, good rush defense, but they give up a lot of big plays in the secondary. 120th in the country. And that's the same neighborhood USC lives in. So is USC going to be going big play or are they going to have to try and score in the red zone? Because Louisville has a really good red zone defense. In fact, the Cardinals led the nation this season, allowing teams to score just 69% of the time they get into the red zone. Teams have reached the red zone 29 times against the Cardinals, which is the 6th fewest in the nation. And they've scored 16 touchdowns and 4 field goals. As a comparison, we're talking about USC's defense here. USC has allowed 34 red zone touchdowns in 2023. So, as Coach Riley pointed out, they've been a really good defense overall, referring to Louisville. And if you're a good defense, you're probably pretty good in the red zone. They've made it tough for teams to score. They've done a nice job defending the run, and they've certainly got some guys on the perimeter that have won a lot of one-on-one matchups, which is typically what red zone football becomes. UCLA made it tough on USC. Other teams made it tough, but the last one that really sticks out was that crosstown showdown. USC has to look better. Okay, I don't know how many people are picking USC to win this game. They're a touchdown underdog. No, crazy, huh? But if you're looking for some good news, there hasn't, as I said, there hasn't been a lot since the first week of October. The good news, here's what you want to, I guess, if you want to create some good news, maybe the younger guys on the roster who are looking forward to playing, they're hungry. Maybe that's going to make up the difference. I don't know. And again, it is the last year. It's the last game of the year until spring camp. So the good news is get out there, cheer on the team, hope for the win, hope for the best. I know it's kind of been hope for the best, expect the worst type of season for USC. But hey, the last one, right? You get to do this one more time. And then we get to turn all of our attention to basketball and baseball. And we'll focus on football recruiting in spring camp. Score this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, if you're a new customer, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. Simply put, that's $150 if your team wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, look, no better time than now. Playoffs are getting ready to start soon. The app is really easy to use. They got a bunch of different ways you can bet, including the point spreads. They got the player profits. They got the over-unders, and they got a whole lot more than just that. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL playoff season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. We're going to take a little bit of a break from the Holiday Bowl. We'll get back to that in the third segment when we talk about guys who I think are going to, pop. And I don't know if they'll be the MVP, but guys who are going to, I think, will stand out in the game. So let's kind of clean our palate a little bit. And let's get back to the transfer portal, the quarterbacks. What are Lincoln Riley's plan Bs? What are some of his other options? Why am I bringing this up? Well, just in case USC gets outbid for Will Howard, you got to have a plan B, plan C. I mean, at this point, what's the holdup? I mentioned it, my everydayers. You heard me say it on yesterday's episode. Why is Howard delaying the inevitable? I mean, if he's going to be a Trojan, what does anybody gain by holding off on the announcement? I mean, other than building up the suspense, look, USC fans went through this when Caleb Williams was deciding where to go. You're not Caleb Williams. I don't know who's telling you, hey, take as long as you want. You can do whatever you want. No. USC fans need a decision right now. Well, they would like a decision sooner rather than later. Miami doesn't appear to be where Will Howard's going to end up. It's either going to be USC or Ohio State. Or option number 3, is he mulling his NFL options? Could be, because that's another choice for Will Howard. We know Caleb Williams hasn't made any type of formal declaration yet. You got till January 15th. Again, it would be nice. There's the thought out there that Will Howard wants to wait till after the Holiday Bowl. Someone said out of respect for Miller Moss. Not sure I agree with that or I even understand it. But it's almost it's kind of like, well, maybe Miller, I don't know, maybe this was the approach. Maybe he's going to say, well, Miller played poorly and it's a job for me type of thing. So I don't know what he's waiting on, why you would say, I want to see how Miller plays in the game. If he plays poorly, hey, I'm ready to jump right in. If he plays well, Miller bowls out, he can commit the day after the bowl game and say, hey, I'm not afraid of Miller. Whatever it is for Will Howard, I say poop or get off the pot. It's time. Make a movement. Sorry. Crude. I apologize. If Will Howard decides he doesn't want to be USC's one-year wonder at quarterback, is KJ Jefferson the plan B for that one-year quarterback transfer? Lincoln Riley's talked about bringing in a veteran that can compete for the job right away, and a younger quarterback that he can develop, bring up through the ranks. Here's some guys who I think Coach Riley might be interested in, and I mentioned KJ Jefferson as the 1-year guy. I'm talking about guys who have more than 1 year of eligibility left. I mentioned Aiden Child's name on yesterday's episode. Here's a few more. And again, not your 1-year ringers. These are guys who, 2 or 3 years of eligibility that you want to work with, you want to develop. Malik Murphy was never coming to USC, and he's committed to Duke. By the way, I've met Malik, really nice young man. There's a reason why USC never showed a lot of interest in him when he was at Sarah High School. He's got a wind up to when he's throwing the ball. If you're old enough, you'll remember this name. He reminds me of Louis Tion pitching. Look him up, Louis Tion. Anywho's, so let's get him off the board. I know a lot of Trojan fans, hey, he's a local kid, USC should go after him. It was never going to happen. But here's a few names. The name Caden Veldkamp. He's a redshirt freshman, just finished up at Western Kentucky. He was a 3-star, according to the recruiting gurus, out of high school, lightly regarded. And Western Kentucky actually outbid, and I should, outbid Kentucky for his commitment. And he only appeared in 2 games for the Hilltoppers, and then he jumped in the transfer portal. What's interesting about this is that he played in Western Kentucky's bowl game this year. And that's because their starter got benched before the game. I'm not sure what happened. Doesn't matter. But when he played, he had a pretty damn good game. 383 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. He was 40 for 52. That'll get it done, right? And check this out. He led the team back from a 28-0 deficit. And he beat Old Dominion 38-35 in overtime. So he's not what he's not the type of quarterback you really associate with Lincoln Riley. This guy's a big dude. 6'6", 235 pounds. And like I said, redshirt freshman. He popped in the bowl game. And you kind of wonder, if Lincoln Riley was going after Will Howard, who's 6'5" for 1 year, why not go get someone who's 6'6" for a couple of years, right? Would Lincoln Riley try and do something with a quarterback who couldn't beat out Spencer Rattler at South Carolina? Just as a reminder, why is Mark lining it up like that? Well, remember, Lincoln Riley benched Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma in favor of Caleb Williams. And we know how that turned out for the next year and a half. Caleb played for a half a year at Oklahoma, won the Heisman at USC the next year. This year, I don't know what happened, but it worked out for a year and a half. So again, the quarterback that I'm talking about from South Carolina, his name is Tanner Bailey, redshirt freshman. And this guy actually had a pretty solid offer list coming out of high school. He's from Alabama. He was offered by Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, Indiana. He settled in at South Carolina. He thought he probably was going to have a clearer path to playing compared to those other programs. Probably. Didn't work out that way. But he was a consensus 4-star. And again, he had offers from Michigan, Bama, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, Oregon. So it's not like this is a no-name quarterback. He spent 2 years in Columbia, South Carolina. He only appeared in 1 game, though. And he hasn't even attempted a pass yet. So he's not the big guy like Vanderkamp. Did I say that correctly? Go back to that name real quick. Veldkamp. I apologize. However, Tanner Bailey, 6'1", 215 pounds. So he's closer to a Caleb Williams than a Veldkamp. But then again, why did Coach Shane Beamer choose Spencer Rattler over Bailey? And apparently both Bailey and Spencer coming out of spring camp were neck and neck. Was it an NIL transfer portal thing? I don't know. Whatever happened, Bailey is leaving South Carolina. What I know, here's what I know. Lincoln Riley, I think he needs to get this thing figured out soon, because if quarterbacks don't want to come play for you, I think then we have a problem, right? So we know Miller Moss is going to be back next year. We know Jake Jensen. You still need 2 more quarterbacks. Or at least Lincoln Riley wants 2 more quarterbacks. He wants 4 scholarship quarterbacks. In today's game, I don't know if you need more than 3, because they don't stick around. But again, if Lincoln Riley is having a tough time getting quarterbacks to want to come play for him at USC, which has a rich history and tradition of quarterbacks before Lincoln Riley, I'm thinking there's something going on behind the scenes that we might need to explore, and it might not all be related to NIL. I'm not trying to create any type of narrative here. I'm just saying that would be, you would think, the one position that Lincoln Riley would have 0 problems, playing Peter Piper, getting people just to come on over, would be the quarterback position. It feels a little weird right now. There's just so much going on behind the scenes at USC, and I don't know. Things just feel a little odd right now. All right, let's get back to the Holiday Bowl. Last game of the year. Who's going to be the game MVP for USC? Look, you got Zachariah Branch, you got Deuce Robinson, Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon. Those are your wide receivers. I didn't even mention Dorian Singer's name. Who's going to have the best stats at the end of the day? Zachariah Branch is a safe bet. Deuce is also a solid bet. Can't go wrong with either one. I'm gonna be a little different here. I'm going to go with Jacoby Lane. I'm going to tell you why. So, Lincoln Riley, again, he mentioned him. Miller Moss has mentioned him a couple of times preparing for the Holiday Bowl. That's why. He finished the year with 4 catches, 33 yards. Now, I don't know if he'll have 4 catches in the first quarter. I think Lane's going to have more than 33 yards by the end of the first quarter. I think this is going to be his breakout game. Coach Riley said he's one of the guys I feel has taken advantage of the extra repetitions. He has an opportunity to play a big role for us tomorrow night. So, I don't know, maybe Coach Riley is trying to use him as a decoy. I think you're going to see Jacoby Lane pop. Heck of an athlete. So that's my MVP from the wide receiver group. And I have 3 out of the 4 freshman wide receivers scoring a touchdown as well. So they're all going to get a taste. Now, will Zachariah have 1 or 2 touchdowns? That's the question. And will one of them come on special teams? When I had to do a little research here. On Inside the Trojan Huddle, I just kind of said, yeah, he's gonna score 1 on special teams. Well, did a little research. Louisville's kicker, he's got 64 kickoffs on the season. 37 of them went for a touchback. And apparently they don't punt very often, because in order to qualify for punt stats, you've got to punt at least 3 times per game. Louisville didn't do that. So I don't know. Maybe USC's defense can force Louisville to punt it a couple times, and maybe Zachariah's magic can flourish. I've got Miller Moss going for 250 plus yards, mostly because Louisville has a really good rushing defense. So it's going to be interesting to see if Lincoln Riley wants to commit to the running game. I think they need to get 150 on the ground to give themselves a fighting chance. They give Miller an opportunity to not be, hut running for cover. Here's what they're up against. Louisville's rush defense, they averaged 102 yards per game. That's pretty damn good. On defense, I'm going to flip over to the other side of the ball real quickly. My sentimental favorite, I think, Max Williams. Let's get an interception against Jack Plummer. And your tackle leaders for the game, it's either going to be Mason Cobb or Jalen Smith. One of those two are going to lead the team in tackles. Maybe they'll tie. As far as I know, they're both playing. Bear Alexander, 2 sacks. I'm just throwing out some things I hope to see in the game. Jamil Muhammad, we're going to get how about a strip sack? Sack, forced fumble. Here are some players on Louisville for you guys to watch out for. So those are my top players for USC. Here are the guys on the other side. You know about their quarterback, Jack Plummer. When he played at Cal, he had a monster game, 400 yards. Let's keep him somewhere between what he did against Florida State and what he did against USC last year. 250, 260 yards. But again, the last time he saw USC, Alex Grinch was the defensive coordinator, 400 yards through the air. He completed 71% of his passes. That can't happen in this game. If that happens, it's going to be a long day for USC. I mentioned that their top running back, Jordan Jahar, he's not going to be playing in the game. So their running back, who is going to be looking to fill his shoes, his name is Isaac Garendo, and he finished the year with 109 rushing attempts, 650 yards, 649 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, but he also caught 17 passes for 192 yards. 6'1", 225 pounds. Sounds like he's a tough guy to bring down when you see those types of dimensions. Their next wide receiver after Jamari Thrash, who will not be playing on the game. His name is Chris Bell, and he finished the season with 63 catches, 858 yards, 6 touchdowns. Those were Jamari Thrash's numbers. I apologize. Chris Bell finished the season with 26 catches, 386 yards. So you can see pretty precipitous drop off from 1 to 2. USC is a little bit more balanced offensively. And again, Taj Washington will be playing. I mentioned the younger guys. Will they send Taj Washington out with the MVP? I don't know if he's going to play enough reps in the game. I don't think you want to play in that many reps. You want to save him for the NFL. He's got nothing left to prove. Defensively, USC needs to stop this guy. His name is Ashton Gillette. First team All-ACC, second team All-American. He led the ACC with 14.5 tackles for loss and 11 sacks, 45 tackles. USC needs to keep him out of the backfield because if USC O-line does that, keeps him out of Miller's face, you know what? I don't know what to expect in this game. I think it's going to be a closer score. I got USC winning by 2. I don't know what the exact score is. But I'll tell you what, because I know USC has no defense, and it would be really foolish to anticipate them all of a sudden having a defense in this game. Let's go for one of those old-fashioned Holiday Bowl games, right? Remember those old BYU Holiday Bowl games, or when Hawaii played, or where the score would finish like 56-50? Let's have one of those games. Let's make it fun, right? Whatever. I'll be back with a post-game reaction after the Holiday Bowl. I don't know what time it'll get up. It'll be up there. So until then, everyone, it's been a fun football season. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. We're not done with football, but the season's over. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.